Hey, my name's Dana from itpath.net, and this is
I'm just a kid.
my kid, Aaron. And Aaron is building a computer.
Wow.
This is computer number.
Number one. This is my
This
first
is
one.
number one that you built.
Yeah. Yeah, ever.
What about the one right there?
Well, I built that one, but it's not mine. It's
He built the
yours.
computer for me too. So anyway, so we're gonna walk through specs. I'm gonna let Aaron kind of walk through some of the stuff he's picked and why I think they're good or bad choices. No, I'm just kidding. I know they're all pretty good choices. So we're gonna share our screen and go from there. So hit yeah, hit share screen.
Hit share screen.
Hit share
Okay.
screen.
Use system capture or whiteboard? That is the question.
Golly, all these buttons.
You run IT, you should be able to
that one.
Look at that one.
Hit share.
All right.
And share. Entire screen.
Share the entire screen. Okay. Gonna
Oh,
oh boy. Ooh. Okay, there.
You're good. You're good.
There.
You're good.
There we go.
Let's minimize that.
Okay.
All right.
Wait,
All right. Let's go to cart. Your cart.
Yeah.
Start talking through what you picked here.
Okay, so when you're making a computer, usually the thing you want to start out with is the graphics card or the purpose of your machine. Usually, if you're doing just business stuff, working on documents, simple stuff like that, you want a decent processor, but you don't really want a beefy GPU or graphics card. So
that's a good point. That's well said.
yeah.
That's well said. Because a lot of people think that, oh, I'm going to build a computer. I've got to go out and buy all these expensive components.
Oh, yeah,
or they think I'm just going to go cheapest across the board. And then both ways they get themselves in trouble, either financial or they've just built a machine that maybe doesn't even go together. But anyway, so.
With the computer going together part, you also want parts that correspond with the GPU. So when you start with the GPU, you have to make sure everything aligns. And one of the most focused things, I think, on the PC industry is bottleneck. So I'm going to talk about the specs of this here, though.
Go ahead.
So it's a 6600 XT from AMD or MSI. That's the person who
MSI Radeon. Right. Yes, the Radeon.
The Radeon RX. And that's equivalent to at least like a 3060 NVIDIA graphics card. So it's pretty good. And
why did you pick that one over the NVIDIA? What was the price difference?
Oh yeah, the price difference was substantial. It was at least probably maybe $50 or 30.
Okay.
50. I think 50.
Okay.
It was like 300 something.
340 somewhere around there.
340 around there. And this is really good. And the Radeon is like a great card. So just because everyone's going for NVIDIA, you can get some really nice stealthy deals. Stealthy. Yeah.
All right. CPU.
Okay, so now the CPU. So you want a good CPU that supports the graphics card and the graphics card that supports the CPU. It's like it all just works vice versa. So the first thing I started looking up was like the Ryzen CPUs because they're really good. And I found an AMD Ryzen 5600 for $140. And without the integrated graphics, because I have a graphics card, that means I can get it for cheaper, which is really good. You just want to find ways to shave off a little bit of money. Because if I got the one with the graphics implemented, there's no use because I already have a graphics card.
Right. Okay. So I do have the specs of the card pulled up in these two tabs. So so this is the one you're selecting.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the one you're selecting, and really the only big difference between the Ryzen 5 5600 and the 5600X is the turbo speed and the clock speed. Those are really the major differences. So if you go ahead and hit the other tab.
Okay.
So that's a 4 point. So this is a 4.6 and a 3.7 clock speed. However, the CPU rating overall rank on this one is 335, and go to the rank on the other one. Like 347. They're so close. It's like, why would you pay $40, $50 difference between the two? So anyway,
Exactly.
that's kind of the logic there. Now, a lot of you tech heads out there are going to say, "Oh, you've got to go with the X. You've always got to go with the highest." Or it's not actually the case.
Yeah.
If you want to eke out a little bit more performance for $50, hey, it's your wallet being impacted, not my kids.
Yeah.
So anyway,
And I gotta break my piggy bank for this one. So
that's right. Gotta break the piggy bank.
oh, let's see.
Okay, see what else we got
All right.
here.
So we got the GPU, the CPU. Next, we have the SSD. You want to get the storage, the RAM, and everything. Start with the SSD here.
Great price.
A great price.
$6 for a terabyte is fantastic.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You can't find that very much.
You're probably going to put a spinning hard drive in here as well, just for extra storage and backing up.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
But not necessarily like right when you buy it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So on that, the one thing you'll notice here is it says NAND NVMe M.2. Now, M.2 is kind of like the interface slot, what fits in there. However, NVMe is better performing.
Right.
So you want to make sure, and the motherboard does support NVMe M.2. So that's good because the performance is going to be better. Olden days, that it was not as much parallelization going on in order for it to be so efficient. But these are super efficient, super fast sticks. $46 for a terabyte is awesome.
Yeah, so you really just want to make sure everything fits well together. Like when you get RAM, and when you get the SSD, you want to make sure it matches the motherboard as well. So yes, this is really great. $45, a real good deal. So I have the RAM here. This is 32 gigabytes, and it's two sets of 16 gig, or a pair of 16 gigabytes. Really good. I mean, I don't really have much to say about that. The more RAM you have, the easier it is to.
Yeah, better RAM. I mean, okay, so we talk about bottlenecks, right? So there's probably three places where and a lot of people talk about the CPU versus graphics card bottleneck.
Right.
So you got a really high performance CPU, and then you've got a mediocre performing graphics card, then your graphics card is going to bottleneck. And if you have a really high performing graphics card but a mediocre CPU, then the CPU is going to bottleneck.
Right.
But the same is true actually for RAM, because if you built this whole computer and then you only had like 8 gigs of RAM, some of your games are going to be, they're still going to load slow. And if you opened up the performance, the task manager, you would see like you're nailing your 8 gig. Yeah. Okay. So anyway.
So yeah, this RAM just helps like load stuff and everything, like you mentioned. Next thing you want to make sure that you have is a power supply. Don't forget this. Even though it doesn't seem as cool as a graphics card, you still need it.
I'm not prompting him, people. He's just coming up with this stuff on his own, but he's right.
So this is a Thermaltake. Thermaltake is a great brand from experience.
It's the band.
Thermaltake. But you don't need RGB unless you really want your PC to look like really stellar and impressive. You really don't need RGB as long as it runs well. Who cares?
Now, one thing to note is like you see the lights on the inside here. Oh my goodness, that looks cool. However, keep that in mind because when we look at the case a little later, just look at the case. Okay,
a little bit later. But this is great. 750 watts, right? Yeah, watts. And so usually you want to make sure how much wattage you're getting when you compare the graphics card and the CPU, because the CPU and graphics card usually need like.
Can't go cheap on a power supply,
right?
Yeah, and especially if you're using for a gaming computer. It's not like you can go out and just buy a $30-40 power supply. You can find some that will work, but you're probably going to regret it later, and you're probably going to end up replacing it. Yeah, because it might overheat, it might whatever. So good selection. Thermaltake's pretty good. Now this particular one didn't have as crazy high reviews, but look, he's paying $105 out of his wallet to get this. What is this? A PSU.
Yeah.
power supply.
Yeah.
So $105 out of his wallet to get this power supply, and it's going to be good enough for what he's going to be using it for. So.
Yeah. I don't intend on overclocking anything, trying to get like massive frame rates or whatever.
Can we talk about that right there, what that means?
So we have full modular power supply.
Do you remember
It's a big one.
do you remember what the modular part means?
No, I don't.
So old style power supplies had and you can take over when you remember. Old style power supplies had a group of cables that came out of the power supply. His eyes are lighting up. You remember?
Yeah, I think it just has a bunch of weird wiring. You can usually find it for cheaper, but like when it's in that format, the old fashioned, it's just a lot of plugging wires in and stuff.
Non-modular has all of the wires come directly out of but this guy actually has connectors on it.
Right.
So if you want to click on that, we can go just,
I guess we can do that. Link new tab.
Yeah. So show us the modular part of this.
Okay, let's see. You have, was that it? Right there.
Yep.
So yep, you got 24 pin, 4+4 CPU.
Yeah, you don't have to know what they all do. That'll come later.
Yeah,
the cables. This is so this helps really route all of those wires. Okay, so it used to be you got what you got. You got a power supply, and then you kind of had to buy your power supply with all of the groupings of cables with the right length for your case. And sometimes your power supplies just came with the super long cables, and you kind of like nested them all up together and tried to zip tie them together, and it was all just one big mess at the top of your case. And you can never really make it look neat, but the cases today are much different.
Right.
You have a channel down the back side, which comes from where the power supply is. You can group those cables and pass them through the back side of this hidden part of the case, and then plug them in, and it all looks so nice and neat. And almost no zip ties. I mean, you can really make it look cool. So anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, that's power supply. It's pretty great. And 750 watts is really good. I mean, it's not like crazy, but it has enough room to improve. So if you get like a better CPU than a 5600, you can, it'll work. Next thing, actually, this is like one of the most important things. You have the motherboard. I think we should look at this one.
Yeah.
So this is a B550, and the main thing when you're looking for a motherboard is you want to make sure it's compatible with everything you are looking at. So AM4 socket, it supports the 5000 series. That's good. It has DDR4 compatible, which is good because that's I think
that's the RAM we got.
The RAM, right? And connectivity, you have NVMe support, which is really good. We got that for the SSD, and then just some other like little things. It's just
stuff. So on this as well, that's good because you're in the picture. So now, if you're like totally into tech, you're gonna look at this motherboard. Oh, it's just not enough. I need more slots. I need more upgrade room. Well, you know what? He's getting a motherboard for $90.
Right.
It's going to support his graphics card, and it's got one expansion port on there. So if he wants to add later, and that is, if you can see the mouse, down the bottom left of that motherboard, there's a
port. You want that or this?
There you go.
Is this what you want?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So we have a slot down there for expansion. That's not highlighted on here, but that's exactly what it is. But anyway, so he can add like a wireless card or something. Right now, he's just going to plug it in through the Ethernet, right? So so that doesn't really matter today. He can add one later if he wants to upgrade. You could literally, if you wanted a different sound card or something like that, you could do that as well. But it's not critical. It's not running multiple graphics cards or anything like that. And if you wanted to, you could say, if this board ended up being too smaller for him down the road, you could literally just take your components off of this and put it in a bigger board that's like $160, $190, something like that. So, but for now, for what he wants to support. This totally makes sense. By the way, he came up with this component list. I really did not help you
with this one.
with any of these specifics.
I think you talked about like making sure it matched with the like AM4 and everything, but but $90. I mean, it is a micro motherboard, but
micro ATX.
yeah.
Now, okay, yeah.
No,
Talk about your case.
This is the exciting part. Oh wait,
This little tiny picture.
That's not what I wanted.
It's the V200.
So this is a Thermaltake. It's got a V200 tempered glass. Like I said, you don't need RGB, but this is like $65, and it came with RGB, so that's good.
Hey.
And it's a good size too. Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a good size too. It has like 4 fans in it. That's great. If you notice, it actually goes from the front all the way to the back. I didn't realize that at first.
The airflow.
Yeah, the airflow. Yeah. But yeah, so we were talking about the power supply, RGB.
Oh yeah, you remembered that.
And well, you look at there, if you put your power supply right under that little, like it looks like a shelf kind of, right under that, you can't see the lights whatsoever. So, like I said, sometimes you don't really need RGB.
It's bling that you're not going to be able to see.
Right.
But we couldn't find a power supply less expensive that really met what you were looking for.
Right.
For,
Yeah. So So yeah, you got stuff like the motherboard tray, whatever. So you can fit everything in. You want to make sure you have the right case so you can fit everything in, and that you don't have.
Yeah, can we talk about case size a little bit? So this is a mid-tower, mid-size. This is a mid case, right?
Right.
Mid-tower case.
So it's not huge, but
it's not like a full-on server tower or anything like that.
Right.
And here you can see it populated. Well, that one right there. And when you look at that picture, that's probably going to be about where his video card sits.
Right.
Okay. Oh, we got an MSI in there too. So you see like 1, 2, at least 3 expansion slots down below where actually there might even be 4. It's hard to tell. It looks like there might be one of them. So there's 3 or 4 expansion slots underneath that. He's only going to have 1 additional expansion slot underneath that. So, but one thing I think is important to note is when you're going to build a computer, a PC, and you're going to want to do a graphics card, dedicated graphics card in there that's not just on the GPU, CPU, GPU combo. You want to watch for that airflow underneath your graphics card, and you've got great airflow underneath there. So you're going to have plenty of airflow around your card. Now, if this was a smaller case, that card actually might end up right against that metal shelf, as you call it, and so it's not going to have it's probably going to work okay, but it's probably not going to perform as best because as the card gets hotter, the performance is going to degrade. Now, how come you didn't choose water cooling? Why don't we have any water cooling?
So water cooling, you don't need water cooling either, honestly. It really depends what you're doing. If you're doing extensive, like crazy VFX and video editing, rendering, stuff like that, you might need a liquid cooler. But for what I'm doing, I don't really need it. I'm not gonna overclock this PC, whatsoever.
Overclocking is a big reason for water cooling.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna do that, so I don't need it. Besides, it's another $200. So
yeah. So why show you this video instead of just like pulling the components out of the box? And the reason is it all goes back to planning. Right. Because if you pick the wrong set of components and then you're opening your box and it's build day and you're getting everything ready and you're like, dang it. I could have got memory that matched a little bit better my motherboard, or I could have got a case that was a little bit bigger and it was only going to be $20 difference. I could have got a better CPU or whatever, or it doesn't matter, whatever it is. So planning out right now before you build, thinking about how all your pieces go together. Hey, and just buy from a reputable place, because when it comes to build day, and you're like, I really kind of wished I'd gotten that different case. Send it back. Get the other case. So
Right.
all right.
Yeah. If you notice, I bought everything from MSI, like AMD, just like reputable like name brands. Gigabyte's a great brand too. Yeah, I just want to make sure I got everything reputable. Some people think that starting like to build PCs is off of Amazon, and I'm gonna tell you that's not the case. Usually, a place like Newegg is great because they have all sorts of sales from all sorts of places.
They got videos like to tell you how to do it.
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah.
is great.
So yeah, it's great. So yeah, I think
That's it.
that's it. Yeah.
All right. So, question that when you're getting ready to build another computer, and you like to play games,
Okay.
what's the first game that you're going to try? Because you're like,
first game.
yeah, like because you got like, oh my goodness, I got this new graphics card and processor, and right now you're on an i5 that's like it's over 5 years old.
Yeah, it's pretty
quad
good.
core, but it's over 5 years old, and so it's
Surprising
long
how it
in the tooth. All right, so what are you gonna play?
So the first, I'm gonna tell you a little story. The first time, so I got the PC that I'm using now from my brother, and I know why I didn't want it. But I got it for like $200. I had a 970 in it. Like the stuff was dated, but for me, I was probably what, 14, 15? I don't remember.
Yeah, at least a couple of years.
Yeah. Anyway, for me, I didn't really care all too much. So got it for $200. It was pretty sweet. And the first game I downloaded, like going through the whole process and everything, was Halo Infinite, the multiplayer, whatever. Thankfully it was free. I didn't get the actual game. If I did, I would be disappointed because after waiting forever to get the game downloaded, it crashed. Surprisingly, I fixed that now, where I've just turned the settings down to like low, like everything. So it kind of looks like I don't know, it's just really bad. So I think the first game I want to try would be where it started, Halo Infinite, and see how much better it looks with,
Okay, all right.
with all the shading and everything. I think
There you
that
go.
would be really, really cool.
That's cool. All right, so that's it. We're gonna order these parts, and then the next video. This is part one. Next video, we're gonna actually lay everything out and start doing a build and see how it comes out. All right.
Did that hurt? Just right there. Yeah.